Good morning everyone, this is Sam. Today I'm not recording a video in the evening, I am making one in the morning. While this does not change much, I hope that the content will be up to your taste.
Weekend millionaires, just trying to be cool. Yeah, one day we'll be there, till Monday comes again. We're weekend millionaires.
Now that the intro is over, I would like first of all to tell you guys about something that I was thinking. So I've had a discussion with one of my viewers on Discord the other day, and it appears that making the last week on the trading post videos is not something which really has any interest for many people. These videos are pretty interesting in their own because it is good for the people who do not pay attention to the movements of items on the trading post, but then again it is not like there is much added value. It is just for the lazy people who do not want to check the trading post and who still want to have a look at what happened. Then I was thinking that maybe it would be more interesting for me to try and put my focus more on videos that are actually useful, either testing some RNG, opening some bags, checking out the price of some materials, and eventually talking about the movements of these specifically. So instead of having videos that focus on what happened the last week, having videos that focus on a specific item and how to acquire it. And maybe I can take a look at what happened on the past week, then decide to speak about a specific item that really shone in the light. For example, sticks of butter for last week. I don't know if you guys pay attention. Minus 400k supply plus 100k supply or something. We'll have to check the exact numbers, but a lot of movement happened over there. Anyways, back to the matter at hand. Today, there is a major subject that I wanted to talk about. I have been wanting to make this video for over a year. I made it 4 times and scrapped it each because I was not satisfied with the outcome of it. This video for today is a video about ascended crafting. Ascended crafting is something that has been in the game for a very long time. It is also something which has been quite profitable for a very long time. Ascended crafting is that one field that you need to learn a bit about before you jump in, because while it might seem easy to make profit at first, there are better ways to make profit than what you would expect, first of all. And second, not everything sells fast. The demand shifts depending on the patches, depending on the availability of cheap, easy to get ascended equipment. There is a lot of things that you must take into account before you just jump the gun and get into ascended crafting. I hope that this video will give you all the tools you need to have. So, the first thing to do, in my opinion, would be to have a look back at what ascended is. Ascended equipment is equipment of, well, obviously ascended quality, so that's the amazing pink color, and it is better stats than the exotics. It is 5% stronger, more or less, and it is equal to legendary equipment, which means that if you have a legendary weapon, it does not change anything stat-wise from ascended. The only thing that changes is that you can choose the stats you want on it. It is the same for legendary armor. There is no change of stats between ascended and legendary armor. It is just that the legendary armor can swap both the stats and the runes and the infusions. This is actually a very interesting point that I will go back to later on because it has something to do with ascended crafting. Anyways, back to the matter at hand. As you can see in my inventory, I have a lot of ascended weapons. I have a fair share of ascended trinkets, and I used to have much more than that because I had 4 sets of ascended armor, which means that basically there was no space left in my inventory. This has nothing to do with the video in itself, but it is also something I will go to later on to talk about why ascended crafting will always remain relevant. But first, the timeline. So, ascended come into various types of equipment, just like any basic equipment. If you open your hero panel, you can see that there is the armor, the weapon slots, then the backpiece slot, and the trinkets. Each trinket is of a specific type, so there is the amulet, 2 rings, and 2 earrings, also called accessories. These were not even introduced at the same time. The rings were the ones which came first in the Guild Wars 2 updates. It was with the Lust Shore updates that you guys probably remember more as the Karka event update, which rained precursors on a lot of people. It was a very short event, but it introduced this new type of gear to the game, because before that the best in slot gear was exotics, and even after this was introduced you would still run exotic armor, exotic weapons, exotic almost all trinkets, just ascended rings. I remember this time slightly because everyone was trying to get their ascended rings because they were better. Now, as we move on to the next addition, we got the amulets with Flame and Frost, as well as the accessories. So these were on 2 different patches that were about 3 weeks apart from each other. So one patch end of January, one patch mid-February. And amulets and accessories were just added like this. Another thing which was added at the time, and which actually had a lot of importance to the game, was the Laurel Vendor. Before the Flame and Frost patch, there was no Laurel currency. After the Flame and Frost patch, you could get them both from dailies and monthlies. It was extremely easy to pile up a lot of laurels, which meant that people had both the incentive and the means to quickly get ascended trinkets. So everyone was getting their lurker trinkets, and soon everyone was rolling with the best in slot gear. But then, that was not the end for our internet, because the addition of amulets and accessories meant that the next to come would be the armor, weapon, breathers, back pieces, everything else. The thing is, for the back items, they were introduced at the same time as the ring, but they were extremely long and tedious to get. Fractals were new content back in November 2K12, and not everyone had the time or the drive to actually grind the fractals to get all the relics that they needed to infuse the back pieces to get an ascended one. If you guys do not remember, there is this old skin that is actually very, very nice. It is still one of my favorite skins to the game. It is the Fractal Capacitator. So that's the first skin, second skin, third skin. This is probably one of the best skins in the game, and this is what was originally released in Fractals as the back piece. To be fair, I would really like to see an armor set using the same type of animation as this one, like a legendary fractal armor would be great. Ironet, please watch my videos. And then, as we move on, the part that really interests us is the part about armor and weapons. These two were added late 2K13. So the weapons were introduced right before the armor, which gave people a little bit more time to grab them, and then the armor was introduced. So the weapons came with Super Adventure Box Back to School, which was in September 2013, and it is, well, you know what Super Adventure Box is, right? It is some sort of dungeon, so as to say instanced content, in which you can jump around in a pixelated graphic and very retro environment, trying to save Princess Mia from the horrible, very mean people. The main feature that interests us for this patch is the fact that it introduced ascended crafting. So before this patch, in September 2013, the maximum rating for the crafting professions, like the 6 gear crafting professions, was actually 400, the same that we still have on Jeweler, Scribe and Chef. That patch raised it to 500. So for the people who have not paid any attention, the difference between 400 and 500, you can just tick off everything which is below ascended, and this is all the recipes that we have for 400 and plus. So all of these require you to have a high rating. Obviously, since I'm 500, I do not see the rating requirement anymore, but this is exactly what I am talking about right now, is that we had an update which brought 2 things. First of all, this new crafting, and second, well, it also brought a new demand for materials, because that is one thing that John Smith has been using really well. Ascended crafting has always been balanced properly to make up for material sinks or faucets. So you guys might be saying, but Sam, come on, he can't just do everything with ascended crafting. No, that's not the case. The ascended equipment acquisition is what regulates a huge part of the economy. If it is cheaper to craft, it's going to create demand for the materials, which are going to go up in price. If it is cheaper to acquire by another mean, then the materials are going to be used less and the price will drop. This is what I am talking about, and this is something that John Smith has done really well. So now, as we move on, the weaponsmith's artificer enhancement were increased to 500, and we could craft ascended weapons. Crafting ascended weapons is something relatively simple. All you need to do is to get the ascended crafting materials. So if we go to the refinement tab of the bank, it is the Dedrimer steel-plated dowel that was used to make the inscriptions for the weapons, and these two were crafted from spirit planks and Dedrimer steel ingots. And in order to get the Dedrimer steel ingots and spirit wood planks, you would use almost each tier of the regular crafting material. So it was the tier 2, 3, 4, and 5 that were used, meaning that tier 6 were still extremely cheap, and the tier 1 were never used like ever. You also use these materials to level up your crafting profession, which had the impact on the trading post that the prices for materials went up. Now, the next update that was interesting to us was a very merry Winter's Day. So this was Winter's Day 2013, and it introduced Ascended Armor. Ascended Armor was a patch that a lot of people were waiting for. I remember myself, at the time, I was playing a lot on the NA servers, and I remember Nike saying on his stream that he would be the first one to craft Ascended Armor. And actually he almost was. A lot of people were shooting to craft Ascended Armor as soon as the patch hit, and that patch was a patch that shook the economy greatly. Before it, we had the silk at vendor price. So silk was 8 copper. After that patch, the price of silk skyrocketed, and all the people who actually owned silk or who had it stashed away got extremely happy. I remember a lot of my friends saying, "Oh my god, I have a guild tab full of silk." And actually that was pretty good for them, because the price went from 8 copper to above 2 silver. It was needed both to level up the crafting profession and to be able to make the Ascended Armor as well as the insignias. So a lot of silk was in demand, and a lot of people made gold on that day. We have now covered all the subjects that were interesting to me for the Ascended crafting. So now the part that is going to be interesting for us is to pay attention to how Ascended equipment can be acquired. Because when you want to craft something, when you want to profit from something, you always want to pay attention to the other ways to acquire this item. For example, if today I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to be crafting the materials required to make berserker armor because for sure someone on the trading post is going to buy them. Well, that is not the proper thinking, because as a raid player, if I want to buy a new berserker armor, I am just going to casually open my my raid vendor, and I'm going to use my magnetat shards to acquire armor. There needs to be some sort of an incentive. And that is something that John Smith really did well. If you are trying to get Ascended Armor by other means than crafting, either you're going to be raiding, in which case you will be capped on the magnetat shards you can get, so it is 150 per week, and then everything above that will be exclusively from the drops that you salvage. Or you're gonna have to get it from the fractals of the mists, or you're gonna have to get it from PvP. Fractals in the mist and PvP have a very similar system when it comes to Ascended Armor and weapon acquisition. I am gonna be showing you what it is like if I don't fail that jump. I failed it. I feel really sad right now. Can I? I feel super sad. Okay, so as far as Ascended Armor and weapons go, you would go to talk to Bling, and Bling will tell you, well, there's a difference between core stats and HT stats. This is quite minor. The thing that is interesting to us is that you need armorsmith marks. And then you need some more gold, you need some relics, and you need fractal research pages. Research pages are something you can only get once a day. You get 2 per day, and that is it. So this is a time gate, not to be confused with a cost gate. Like, cost gate is you need money, and if you have more money, you can speed it up. Time gate is whatever amount of money you have in the world, you need time. You need to do stuff daily. So that's it. Anyways, this part that is interesting to us is that it needs marks. So as you can see, Grandmaster marks. 3 for regular pieces, 4 for the legs and chest. Now, an ascended mark is something which is relatively costly to make. I do not know if you guys are familiar with the crafting process of marks, so I'm going to be going to the crafting station and show you how it is. So the Grandmaster Leather Worker mark requires carbonized Metrilium ingot, square of vibrancy, blended leather sheet, and empowered cured thick leather square. The thing about these materials is that they require lower tiers of the materials, as well as vials of might and magic. So making a Grandmaster Leather Worker mark is actually relatively expensive. The blended leather sheet itself is almost the price of a full tier 6 crafting material. So overall, for the Leather Worker mark, you will have the same cost as it would take to craft the armor pieces. The only thing that you truly save on would be the insignia. So now that we have seen what the other possibilities are in PvE, we should head over to PvP. Let's go to the vendor, and if I go to the Armor League vendor, I can purchase armor that will both have the PvP skins and the stats. This is the same World vs Sword, so I'm not going to bother to go into the World vs Sword to show you, because it is exactly the same system. You also need to use the marks, as you can see. And you also have a gate. This is not a time gate. This is just a play a lot gate. Like, you can just repeat the last tier of the PvP League rewards to get more of these. So really what slows you down is the cost there. And the cost is quite the same as in fractals, which means that, so we have 2 ways, as I said, of acquiring the gear. The first one would be crafting, the second one would be going for currency specific, game mode specific ascended armor or weapons for the case. And right now you might be thinking, but Sam, if I can just like play for a week and then grab my piece of gear, why would I need to craft? Well, if you want to have a full set faster, or if you want to have different sets, you're not going to go through the process of farming the currencies each time. At one point in your life, you're going to be thinking, if I need to kickstart my characters into being able to play them in fractals, raids, or whatsoever, you will need to craft yourself some gear. And this is where my new spreadsheet comes in. I was thinking, as a way to thank my Patreons for their continued support, so that's Zana, Felix, and Mr. Evertide, I wanted to make something for them. And I made a very simple spreadsheet that tells you the profit on each craft. So right now, it says, for example, that the most profitable thing to craft would be a Delrimer steel chestplate panel, and I agree with that, because the Delrimer chest piece panel usually sells around 37 gold but only costs 21 to make. So now you might be saying, but Sam, will this ever sell? And the answer is yes. So before I was talking about the people who are crafting the armor, a lot of them do not want to go through the process of acquiring all the materials, get the crafting going, craft the armor. They're just gonna be like, I'm gonna buy the chest piece panel, the chest piece back, I'm gonna buy the insignia, and bam, I have my armor piece. There is also the fact that they want to avoid the daily time gate of having to craft ascended materials, which I completely agree with is very long and tedious. And there is another thing that is currently kickstarting the buying of these pieces is that if you get the envoy insignia and if you get all the other crafting materials needed, you can make the envoy armor. So I don't know if I can. I probably don't have it right there, but you can make the envoy armor if you have the armor pieces as well as the insignias. For example, the Deldramer steel chestpiece panel. Another example would be Damask coat. I'm pretty sure there is one. Damask coat panel, coat lining. This is the kind of stuff that you would need to make another set of legendary armor. But as we go back to what we were talking about, the most profitable would be the steel chestplate panel, and then it would be the steel legging panel. This is stuff that sells. It actually sells rather simply, and pretty much anyone can craft it for extremely little effort. So now you will say, but Sam, if a lot of people like us get onto that crafting, wouldn't that mean that there would be much less profit individually? Well, the answer is no, because it was a market I used to be on every day, and my items never took longer than a week to sell. There is also the fact that if you do not want to risk yourself on this specific market, you can always go for making inscriptions, which is something that I am going to show you later on. But first, I am going to quickly go over to the armor smith and grab, as I go there, a little bit of thermocatalytic reagents. And there we go. So if I want to make a chest plate, so Deldramer chest plate panel, I can quickly craft 2 of these, and I know that they're profitable. So there is no reason for me not to make them. I'm going to craft 2 of these. As you can see, if I were to list them, this is a solid 70 gold. And now, I was also saying that the other one which sells well is the legging plate. So if I go for the legging one, there we go, still legging panel. This one also sells pretty well. If you look at the price on the trading post, it is 30 gold. It is using 1 less Deldramer steel ingot, which overall shows you that the prices reflect the materials being used. Like, nothing is overpriced when it comes to ascended crafting. I'm also going to be making 2 of these by grabbing some more thermocatalytic reagents over there. I'm going to buy 10 of them this time. Yes. And there we go. So I'm gonna make 2 of these as well. I do not want to make too much of them at once, so I can show you guys both what to do for crafting and how to properly organize it. So I'm gonna put these 2 in my bank. And now I am gonna go back to my other character and show you the rest. So now you have an idea of what to craft to make profit. Another good idea for something to craft to make profit would be dual damask patches. So the thing about ascended crafting is that you have 4 different materials to use. You have the Elonian leather square, you have the Deldramer steel ingot, you have the bolt of Damask, and you have the spirit wood plank. And once you get to that point, you're going to be thinking, but I need to use all these materials separately. And that is the truth. I tend to craft much less spirit wood planks because I actually do not use them so much compared to my other ascended materials that I have almost 30 off, and I had a lot of steel ingots because I don't know, I tend to drop these from fractals. Because you can also drop these materials for fractals. You can also get them from the Magic Warped bundle. I think it's from the Masterwork quality one. There is a lot of ways to acquire these, which is not purely by crafting, but crafting is the very reliable way, and you guys want reliable income. So now that we have seen these, I will go over on what to do with the spirit wood planks or what to do with the bolts of Damask. So for the bolts of Damask, there is at the moment nothing too good you can make. You could make an Elonian longcoat panel, Elonian trouser panel, and I think we're gonna go for that. These are the medium armor crafting ones. And the best way to go about it would be Elonian longcoat panels. This one takes 5 squares, but it sells at a very nifty price. So 63 gold is pretty damn solid. So I'm going to be making 1 of these. And then I am going to be making 1 of the trouser panels. So this way you guys are gonna see what it is like to craft everything. I need to buy a few of these again. This is so annoying, to be fair. Like the whole crafting process is extremely tedious, which is also why a lot of people are not getting into this market. Like, it has so much annoyance to entering it that a lot of people just decide to dodge away from it. As you can see, once again, a 9 gold difference, which is pretty much the price of an individual Elonian leather square, which is an explanation as to why the crafting is once again very well balanced. The prices are very well balanced as well. So now we have another 2 crafting materials, and finally I'm gonna show you how to make inscriptions. I'm just gonna rearrange everything that I'm gonna send to my alt account onto the same tab, and now we're gonna be able to move on. So as far as the weapon crafting goes, it is also very simple. You want to make a dowel for the inscriptions, and then you want to make the other parts for the weapon. The other parts, sadly, when it comes to weapons, are account bound. You cannot sell them. So if you were thinking, oh, I'm gonna make a shitload of blades and hilts and sell them, no, that's not how it works. The blades and the hilts are both account bound. Like, you cannot do anything with that. So do not even think about it. It is a really, really bad idea. What you want to do is to make the inscription itself. In order to make an ascended inscriptions, you must first unlock the recipe. The inscriptions, if you want to craft them, can be gotten from the master. So the master huntsman is actually on this side. And if you want the ascended recipes, you can go there and buy for 21k karma. So that's an entry cost, but then again, a lot of people are not using their karma really to make profit, so it's pretty much okay overall. Then you can see the type that I crafted. So I crafted a few soldier ones, rabid ones. That's zealot, because I made the zealot set, marauder, sinister, berserker. These are very classic stat sets. You could also make a magi one, because magi is something that sells pretty easily on the trading post. So if you want to try and make profit from crafting an insignia or an inscription, the best way to go about it is to grab the exotic version of the insignia or the inscriptions for very cheap. So for example, if you go for, I think Magi is Honk. Yeah, there we go. So Honk is 67 gold there and 58 gold there. So that's pretty damn good. But if you look at Magi Intricate, you can see that the insignia is 1 gold and the inscription is about the same price. Then, however, if I look at Zoja, so the Zoja one is 72.57, so the price is pretty much the same. Like, it's a few more gold for the insignia, about the same price for the inscription. And if you look now at Berserker Intricate, you can see that the price is much higher, so you would be making less profit on this one. You really want to pay attention to this kind of stuff. If you do not truly research all the components in your crafting, you will only end up losing money, and this is not something that you wish to do. You guys are here to get richer, so this is something that you should really look into. Anyway, I think that I've pretty much gone over everything that I needed to talk about. I'm not going to be crafting a lot of different stuff just for the sake of showing you. I am just going to keep it at what I did right now. I'm going to list these on my alt account, and I'm gonna, on a daily basis, sell my ascended crafting stuff. If you guys are interested in the spreadsheet, it will be available on my Patreon for the people who have subbed. This is full sellout moment, of course, because I do not want to spread my spreadsheets too far, and like keeping them only for the Patreons is a good way to ensure that they're not being spread too much. And I am just gonna wish you guys a most happy trading and to get rich.